This podcast is edited and produced by Buford Digital Productions. Visit their website today to see what they can do for you.
The wandering path. The wandering path.
Welcome to the Wandering Path podcast, a sanctuary for the modern seeker and a dedicated practitioner. Here we believe that magic isn't just found at the destination, it's woven into every step of the journey. Whether you're here for the wisdom of tarot, the pull of the moon, or the whispers of the stars, you found your seat at the table. I'm your host, Adonis Youngblood, and today we're stepping back onto the path to explore what it truly means to live a life of magic. Welcome back to all my wonderful listeners. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful path towards enlightenment, for information, history, and everything that you will need for the path ahead. Today, we'll be discussing the different type of witches you get. This is a highly requested topic for anybody who is doing podcasts on spirituality, witchcraft, the craft, Wiccan, anything on that basis. So today is my turn to discuss them. And this is just my spin on it, but there are a few things that I want to mention before we get into the full-ish list of witches. Firstly, this isn't a fully comprehensive list. This is simply the most popular varieties of types of witches that you are likely to find. There are 4 more different varieties, and of the many varieties that I'm going to cover today, some are known with different names. Example, a half witch also goes by the term cottage witch. So, if you don't hear a specific witch on the list, it's either because it's quite uncommonly found or they are known by a different name. Secondly, the thing that I can't stress more is that you don't have to force yourself to fit into any of these categories. It's not a requirement. When you start practicing witchcraft, you don't already have to know the type of witch you are or want to be known as. It's something that you tend to fall more into as you continue your path of your craft. As you learn more of what you enjoy doing and what you don't like to do, and also you start to learn more on what you are good at and what you struggle to do or understand. This is definitely not a requirement to be a witch. You don't have to select a category. Some people choose to describe themselves as a very specific category because it's easier for other people to understand. Like for me, as I will describe myself and to my friends and family, I am what is known as a elemental witch. I do not work with any gods or goddesses in particular. I do have my spiritual guides that I work with when I do my craft, and I work with spirit, with earth, fire, water, and air. So it's a combination of all those that I'll also be discussing. I used to belong to a coven, but now I'm more known as a solo kind of witch. But we'll discuss that more when we get into the 4 categories that you can find for each and every single witch. You should definitely not box yourself, but enjoy the process to find out more about yourself. And the thing I learned was that you should grow with your craft and not against it or forcefully. The 4 categories I want to discuss is the secular, religious, solitary, and group. These are not necessarily types of witches in themselves, but are instead the methods of practicing other paths and traditions. So you can be a secular witch and also a green witch, an elemental witch, and so on and so on. They are instead additions to your practice. Some people follow a god or goddess or gods, and some people will follow the spirit. Some people won't follow anything in particular because of their personal choice. The first category that we'll be discussing is secular. Secular essentially means that you don't follow a god or goddess or gods. You are non religious in your practice. This can be applied to basically any type of group of witches that you will find, unless they already include a religion element. Example, Wiccan witchcraft. You can't be a secular and following the Wiccan witchcraft because there is a religious attachment to it. My personal opinion. Religious is essentially you believe and follow a god or multiple gods or goddesses. This is another one of those you can attach it to any of the types of witches I'm going to list later in this episode. It's an addition, an extra layer to your personal practice. Solitary. All of the type of witches can practice as a solitary practitioner, working by yourself as well as a group or coven practitioner where you can work alongside other people. And group, as a group, you raise your energy together, you release your energy together, and you gain results together. These four categories are simply additions. Example, I'm a secular elemental witch. This is how I would describe myself to the people who are open minded and hearted like me. I did practice with a coven once upon a time in my life, and it was the best time of my life, like I said earlier in this episode. And if I would have joined a coven again today, I would most definitely do it if I feel that the vibes are correct and the energy feels safe and secure. And just to clear the air, this is all my own research and beliefs, and I do not want to force anything of my own onto people or other practitioners. This is the path I choose to follow. You can pick your own route and path to follow, and people generally change from one category to another type of which throughout their life and throughout their practice. So you don't have to set yourself to a specific title because they definitely are not required. They are just nice additions to have, to easily categorize and explain your personal practice. The first type of witch that we'll be discussing is elemental witch. Elemental practitioners are those that are connected to all the elements that work easily and effective with every single element, and they incorporate them in different spells and rituals. They utilize fire, earth, air, and water magic as well as invoking them into ceremonial circles, why they call the quarters, working with the element spirits, working with elemental deities, and so on. They focus more on general elements rather than single elemental practitioners, but still solely work with the elements and the elements within their workings. And you will rarely find an elemental practitioner undertaking a working without connecting with at least one element before or and during the working. Next type of witch is earth witch. An earth witch is deeply connected with the earth, whether through the zodiac and astrology or simply through energetic connection. These practitioners undertake all of the workings in association with the earth element, whether that is burying their workings, undertake natural magic, whether that is by connecting to the earth deities like Gaia, or even connecting with earth elementals and earth spirits. Everything they do in their practice is very deeply rooted and deeply connected to earth elements. And they likely wouldn't feel comfortable practicing if they don't or didn't have any access to the earth or connection to the earth in some way or form. Air witch. This is generally practiced by people who are closely connected to the air element, either by their zodiac sign or simply through energetic connection. Generally, air witches undertake all their workings by utilizing the element of air in some way, shape, or form. This can be from anything from incense magic to breathing meditations. Fire witch. Much like the practitioners that work with earth, air, and fire witches are very deeply connected to the fire elements, either through their zodiac or astrology, or simply through an energetic connection. They almost always utilize and work with the elemental energy of fire within their practice, often working with candle magic, cauldron magic, burning of sigils, and the undertaking of fire type rituals, often being very closely connected to the aim or a wand as a representation of the fire element. A fire practitioner also often work with fire elementals, fire spirits, and fire deities depending on how they choose to tailor their personal practice. Water witch. Much like air, earth, and fire practitioners, a water witch is someone that is very closely connected to the water element, either through the zodiac and astrology and through the elemental energetic connections. Now, water witches almost practice solely through the use of water elements. They work a lot with chalices, they work a lot with running water and spiritual baths and shower magic. They work a lot with spiritual energy of water, with the elementals, with the spirits, and the deities of water. So, if you're connected to water but aren't specifically drawn to something like a river witchcraft or sea witchcraft, water witchcraft could definitely be something to look into. Cosmic Witch. These are practitioners who work primarily with planetary or cosmic energies. They work closely with the cycles of the moon, with solar energy and planetary energies. They may be very deeply connected to astrology and understanding the placements of the planets and how they affect our daily lives. They also likely work very closely with comets and unique events that don't happen very often, such as a supermoon, blood moons, comets, or eclipses. They are very deeply connected with space and use it as a primary aspect of their personal practice. Crystal Witch. I know that a lot of practitioners have crystals, but a crystal witch goes above and beyond the normal amount. When it comes to working with crystals, almost everything they undertake in a personal practice has something to do with crystals. They likely undertake crystal meditations and tend to be much more successful when it comes to the crystal therapies. They like to use crystals as charms, talismans, work with them in spell work and rituals, leaving them as offerings. They are the core aspects of their personal practice. And if you were to take the crystals away, they would no longer be able to undertake their chosen style of practice. Eclectic witch, one of the most commonly found varieties of witches. They are generally practitioners that pick and choose aspects of different paths to form their own unique practice. It is important to note here that they should really only be selecting aspects of open practitioners and open traditions, not closed ones. But regardless of eclectic which, it is someone that picks and chooses different aspects from different paths and traditions to form their own unique practice. You likely never find two eclectic witches with the same practice in the entire world. It's very unlikely because they tailor everything they do to suit themselves so perfectly and for the ritual that they are doing. Generally, almost everyone begins their practice into witchcraft as an eclectic witch until they find a very specific path or practice that they feel drawn to. Fairy witch. A fairy witch is a practitioner that works with the spiritual beings known as the Fae or fair folks or fairies. They do work with them in almost every single working they undertake calling on their energies, leaving them offerings, having altars in their presence. They often have fairy gardens outside to connect them with them. Some practitioners even undertake travel to the fairy realms to work with them in their own realm as well as our realm. It is quite unusual to find a fairy practitioner doing workings without the association of the Fae. Often they always ask for the assistance of either the Fae within their home, within their local area, or the Fae that are or having a very special connection with during travels or specific fairy meditations. Green Witch. A green witch is a very traditional form of witch. They are individuals that work closely with nature and so are often also known as nature witches. They are witches that are often closely connected to farmland and woodland and meadows, places quite far away from civilization. They find themselves in the city gardens or city parks to get that taste of nature that they can't get in an urban environment. Often working with herbs, and they are good at herbology, working with flowers and tree energies and nature spirits. Almost all of their workings will have some aspect of nature in them, whether that is being with stones, with dirt, or wood, or herbs, or the natural spirits. These are always something very deeply connected to the nature within their personal practice. Half witch, also known as a cottage witch by some individuals, is a person that practices witchcraft surrounding the home and hearth. Unlike a green witch that might undertake rituals within a natural environment, a half witch is more likely going to doing it on their living room floor. They also much prefer being homebodies, doing every bit of their workings inside their home for their home and the people that they genuinely care about. It's often a blend of green witch and kitchen witchcraft. Together, it's a own unique homebody practice. They undertake kitchen magic for the people they care about, but also undertake home charms, talismans that people can take around with them, amulets for protection. They tend to be workers that work primarily with their hands, connecting with the things that they use around them all of the time. Definitely homebodies, half witches tend to stick to working within the home, for the home, with the items found within the home. A hedge witch. A hedge witch is a traditional form of witch. Generally, they were considered a wise folk back through history, but a hedge witch is a blend of green witchcraft and spirit work. The entire practice is walking the hedge between the spirit world and the physical world. They often have an in depth knowledge of plants, of herbalism, of nature, and natural medicine. But equally, the astral project or hegery travel in between different planes, working with spirits and spiritual energies as they go. They're an interesting blend of herbalism and natural green witchcraft, as well as more astral work and spirit work. Hereditary witch. Now, although there are many people who claim to be a hereditary witch that have had witches in their family lineage, what I specifically mean by hereditary witch is that they have been taught by members of their own family. Generally, this is found in families where they have a mother, a grandmother, or auntie that is a practitioner, and they are taught by those family members everything within their practice. And because of this, hereditary witches tend to have historical spells and rituals and family recipes passed down through the generations that they then use within their own personal practices. There are hereditary witches that aren't taught by their family members and end up in a different path. Those are specifically what I'm talking about in this very specific type of witch. What I mean is simply that everything that they know has been taught from people who have practiced before them. So it's a family tradition where what they practice is only practiced within their specific family. Kitchen witch. These are very popular nowadays because it's easy and highly effective. A kitchen witch is a practitioner that embodies everything that they make in a kitchen with their own magic. Whether that be tea, whether it be a healing soup or roast dinner, guaranteed a kitchen witch, if necessary, will be adding their own energies and intentions into that they are doing. They're likely going to mix up teas based on their intention with different types of herbs. They're going to be adding sigils into teacups. They're going to be stirring up soups with potential intention. Everything they do is done with a real purpose, and it's done easily and effective and discreetly within their own home. Kitchen witches often also utilize items they have around them as their magical tools. So, their wooden cooking spoon has become their wand. Their kitchen knife has become their aim. The kitchen shelf has become their kitchen altar. And they do often work with kitchen deities and fae and spirits within the home if they choose to. It's definitely a very specific, useful, and varied practice that a lot of people nowadays are being really drawn to. Lunar Witch. These are individuals that are very deeply connected with lunar energy. They work with the moon phases during spells and rituals. They charge their crystals by moonlight, and every working that they do is very specifically timed to connect with the suitable lunar energy for their practical workings. There are often individuals that draw energy solely from the moon rather from other sources such as the earth or crystals or tools. So there are very specific practice within their witchcraft that is definitely popular as appreciated for the moon is increasing. Pop culture witch. This is becoming more and more popular nowadays. Essentially, a pop culture witch is an individual that draws on pop culture references within their magical practices. Harry Potter is just one of the many sources that the pop culture witches are getting their inspiration from. Whether it be Sabrina the Teenage Witch or whether it be Charmed, pop culture witches have been around for as long as pop culture has been. And it's an interesting practice. They take fantasy ideas and fantasy TV shows, but they really creative twist everything so it's very suitable for real life genuine practices. So, if you're really interested in watching films like The Craft or Practical Magic or Agatha All Along, then pop culture witchcraft could be for you if you are interested in incorporating that into your actual real life practice. Sea witch. Similar to a green witch, where they are very closely connected to a specific environment, in this case water or oceans. There are other varieties of sea witches. There are the stream witches, the lake witches, or the river witches, but this is a very specifically for the sea witchcraft and sea witches. These are individuals that are deeply connected to the ocean, to the tides, to the currents, whether that be the oceans in general or a very specific ocean that they have access to. They work their energy based on the sway of the tides and the workings of the moon. They often utilize oceanic deities and spirits and tools that come from the sea. You're likely to find them having a spiritual bath in ocean using seaweed or sea cells and driftwood within their personal practice. There's a lot you can do with some sea salt and some seaweed, believe me, I know. And sea witches definitely make the most of the ocean that they have around them. Solar witch. Almost the opposite of a lunar witch, a solar witch works solely with solar energy. They are often closely connected to the sun and use it to change their crystals to work with the energy, often undertaking spell work best when it is hot and sunny. They draw energy from the sun rather than from other sources and undertake their workings based on the placements of the sun in the sky. It's actually interesting practice that is not talked anywhere near enough about the comparison to winter witchcraft. So, if you're interested in solar magic, it's definitely something to look into. Sigil Witch. Sigil witches are the type of practitioners that enjoy just a quick, simple magic using sigils in every single one of their workings. They can range from simply doing sigils on a piece of paper and burning them all the way up to complicated sigil based witchcraft, utilizing tools and candles and incense and the items of all focusing the energy on a single sigil. It's a more modern practice that is starting to become more and more popular as sigil making is becoming more and more commonly found, and it can be a very powerful but quick form of witchcraft if you are interested. As you know, there's a lot of ways of making sigils, and sigil witches tend to incorporate every possible way of making sigils into their personal practice, making it as simple or as complex as they want the sigil to be. Spirit Witch. A lot of spirit workers don't call themselves witches. They are simply spirit workers, but I still want to incorporate it into this list because a lot of people do energy undertaking spirit work within their personal practice. Spirit working is essentially the connection with the working with spirits in your personal practice. Often offering or lifts. Whole altars are set up in a connection and dedication to a single spirit or multiple spirits. These are or can be ancestors or a specific spirit of your choice. Offerings are left on special waters or wines or alcohols, and they are drawn on for spells and rituals, with the practice of offerings and dedications being given in response. This is a very dedicated practice where the worker is the devoted and leaving offerings for a specific amount of time or in specific quantities to other offerings to spirit something in return for their assistance. It is an old school traditional form of magic that is found literally all over the world, from Australia all the way across to America. It is found everywhere and is definitely a traditional and important practice to a lot of traditions. If you're wanting to undertake some more traditional practices, spirit work it might be something for you to look into. Tech Witch. These are individuals that feel most comfortable undertaking all their workings from the confine of their phone or computer. They generally have digital books of shadows, digital altars. Their spell work is done and charged through technology, through mobile phones or from their computer, through faxes, anything that they can think of. They choose to undertake their working solely from the inside of technology. It is a very fascinating form of practice that is a lot more modern than almost everything else on this list. But if you are closely connected to technology and then you enjoy working with it, then a tech witch might just be the kind of path that you're going to want to go down. Urban witch. An urban witch is a fascinating form of practice that is not enough people talking about. They work with traditional ideas but utilize the urban environment to their best advantage. They charge sigils in a street where they can get run over by loads of different cars. They take drain water to use in curses and hexes and crossings. They utilize the environment around them, the bad and the good, to charge and manipulate the energy to gain a magical response. It is a wonderful method of practice for people who don't have access to lots of greenery. They don't have access to loads of herbs. Instead, They work with what they have in their urban environment to undertake successful and powerful magic practices. If you know of some people who live in the middle of New York who undertake the witchcraft in this way to have a fantastic results. If you live in any urban environment, maybe urban witchcraft is the way to go. It's definitely a more modern form of practice, but it's definitely something that more people should look into. Wiccan witchcraft. I've included this solely because not everyone that follows the Wiccan religion chooses to go in depth into witchcraft, but some practitioners do. So, Wiccan and witchcraft has become a type of witchcraft in itself that a lot of people practice. It utilizes the god and the goddess's energy from the Wiccan, as well as the casting of circles, the calling in from the cultists, and the Wiccan rite incorporates it into the traditional witchcraft. And often the witchcraft that utilizes a Wiccan witchcraft is traditional British witchcraft. It's an old school ceremonial calling in and invoking and evoking deities and spirits and living offerings. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If I didn't mention any of the other types of witches you get, I do apologize, but like I said, I want to keep this list short and sweet. And yes, like I said, please do not try to force yourself into any of this. Grow with your witchcraft, grow with your craft, and walk the path towards something that feels right, healthy, and good for you. But as always, have a wonderful and a blessed day, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Leave anything in the comment section what you want me to discuss in future episodes, and blessed be. This podcast is presented and edited by Buford Digital Productions. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast and thank you for taking the time. And as always, have a wonderful